Hi everyone, and welcome to my coverage of Game 4 from the World Chess Championships 2010. With the score tied at 1.5, it was an opportunity for either player to take the lead, and a great game followed. Vishy had white and opened with d4, after which came knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, and g3, going into the Catalan opening, which we saw from Vishy in Game 2 also. It's very much a psychological choice against Topalov, who is an aggressive and tactical player, and the resulting positions in this opening are generally quite slow and positional and manoeuvring. So it's a good decision from Vishy to play. So here Topalov played d takes c4, and White's gammeting his c-pawn for a lead in development and the opportunity to create a strong pawn center later. So now came bishop g2, bishop b4 check, bishop d2, and a5, which is a dynamic variation in which black hopes for queenside initiative if white takes the bishop and play along the opened h-file. Also possible here and popular in recent months is c5, which has the added benefit of challenging the white center. So a5 anyway is what Topalov played. Now came queen c2, challenging black's e4 control and also his c-pawn. So now bishop takes d2 check and queen takes d2, which seems a bit counterintuitive as white is no longer attacking the c-pawn, so some of the pressure is gone on black's position. But playing instead knight b takes d2 gives black good practical chances after, for example, b5, a4, c6, b3, c takes b3, knight takes b3, and black has a small edge in the position. So queen takes d2 is better. And now c6, preparing b5 to support the c-pawn. So a4, at least hindering b5 a little, but it's still playable, and Topalov played it now. And here came the first novelty of the game, which is presumably some preparation from Anand with knight a3, as opposed to the more normal development knight c3. The idea presumably is to exert pressure on b5 and c4, at least for the meantime, which white can attack later amongst other plans and ideas, which we'll come back to in a bit. So bishop d7 from Topalov. If instead bishop a6 to give added support to the b-pawn, white can get an advantage with knight e5, where best play goes knight d5, knight takes c6, which is a nice tactical shot, because after knight takes c6 comes a takes b5, winning back the piece. So bishop takes b5, knight takes b5, castles, knight c3 with a small edge to white. So bishop d7, now knight e5, knight d5, and e4, creating the aforementioned ideal pawn center with tempo because the knight's attacked, and knight b4 is the best move. If instead knight b6, white can win the gambit pawn back with a takes b5, c takes b5, knight takes d7, queen takes d7, and queen g5, forking the g and b pawns. So knight b4, castles, castles, and rook f d1 with strong pressure down the d file, and threatening d5 with a strong attack and the opportunity of winning the d7 bishop if black isn't careful. So bishop e8, now the breakthrough move d5, which Topalov answered with queen d6, attacking the now unprotected knight on e5, and Vishy answered with the most complicated and promising line. After queen d6, knight g4. Another possibility was, after queen d6, was d takes c6, sacking the knight in order to create connected passed pawns, which will win back the piece later. As creative as it is, unfortunately black can counter-sacrifice quickly to solve his problems. For example, queen takes e5, a takes b5, and now knight 8 takes c6, b takes c6, bishop takes c6, and knight takes c4. And here, although white has a small edge, he's able to create a much stronger position and keep black passive with the continuation that Vishy chose, knight g4. And this has the added benefit of threatening e5, just gaining a tempo on the queen and gaining space in the center, liberating this bishop a bit. So to meet that threat, Topalov played queen c5. However, this is the second time that the queen has moved, so black's development is being somewhat neglected. So knight e3, adding pressure to d5, which has become the focal point of the middle game. Now knight 8, a6, which is a logical development for the knight, given the position. However, this may well be part of Anand's strategy in his preparation. The point is that if he can find a way to bring his a3 knight to a better post and then open up the position, the black knights are going to be very passively posted, whereas white's pieces will all be primed for attack, and Topalov has been lured into playing this way. It seemed very logical, but Anand proves it to be wrong as the game progresses. Here he took some of the tension out of the game with d takes c6. Now came b takes a4, which is the correct move. If instead bishop takes c6, now comes a takes b5, bishop takes b5, knight a takes c4, bishop takes c4, and rook a c1, with a good edge to white. So b takes a4, now knight a takes c4, and the passive knight comes to a good post, and Anand's plan is suddenly coming into action. His pieces are coming alive. So bishop takes c6, now rook a c1, eyeing the queen. And here Topalov played somewhat passive move, h6. It's useful in some ways because he wants to play rook d8 to challenge the queen on d2, and if he plays that now before playing h6, then white can exchange his queen for 2 rooks at the minimum, and a huge advantage in the resulting position. But this move also creates a juicy target for Anand, which is perhaps something that Topalov was trying to provoke as well, and Vishy was quick to take advantage of this weakening move. First he played knight d6, which gets the knight to a very strong square with tempo, as an attack is discovered on the queen by the rook at c1. So Topalov moved his queen to a7, and now came knight g4 with a very deep attack in mind. So deep, in fact, that none of the engines being used in analysis while the game was in progress realized how strong it was or recommended it as a move. Topalov continued with the apparently logical rook a d8, pinning the knight thanks to the queen on d2. But this move, believe it or not, was the decisive mistake. Better it was either f6 or knight c5. Topalov must have considered Anand's reply and come to the conclusion that it wasn't as strong as it turned out to be. However, his judgment was incorrect, and Vishy showed he has all the prowess a world champion deserves with his calculating skills with his next move. If you want to try and spot it, then stop the video now. Knight takes h6 check is the move, which is an amazingly deep sacrifice that leads to a winning position in every line. After g takes h6 comes queen takes h6. So white has 2 pawns for his knight and a very strong attack to boot. The passivity of black's queenside pieces, his knights in particular, and the weakness associated with that passivity are now clear as day. I mean, his knights are just contributing nothing to the game. They're doing nothing over here on the queen side. And pretty much the only move to save black from an immediate loss is the one that Topalov played, f6, hoping to defend his second rank with the queen. But now comes e5, which is brilliant move, and now all of white's pieces are working superbly. It's a second attacker is discovered on this bishop at c6, so white is threatening to win the piece back with a stronger position. So the logical response to solve the problem of this piece being attacked twice now is to exchange it off for white's bishop. But now Vishy played another great move, and that's e takes f6, temporarily sacking the g2 bishop to create a vicious attack against which black is helpless. So far Vishy has sacked a pawn in the opening, then a knight to open up the king, and now a bishop to make his attack irrefutable. Brilliant play, and to his credit, Topalov found the best defensive moves, but it wasn't enough once he'd allowed Vishy to break through with the knight sacrifice on h6. Here he played a rook takes d6, which is the best defensive move. If he plays instead queen h7, hoping to get the queens off the board and go into the endgame a piece up, white wins with queen g5 check. And there's no queen h7 to defend because of this pawn now on f6. So king h8 is the only move to avoid mate, but now comes the rook c4. threatening rook h4, and black is doomed, for it gives a winning advantage of over 2 pawns in this position, so it's no good. So rook takes d6 is the best defense on what Topalov played. Okay, that's the end of part 1.